Another Play and Explain 25NL on PokerStars here today, and let's see if we can catch a few interesting hands here today, because recently I seem to have played the most interesting hands off stream, and whenever I streamed there wasn't much to talk about. And so let's hope that today we can do a little bit better on this front. We just started. I played one hand before I started recording, and I called the big blind with Queen 10 off against a cutoff raise and then just folded on a lowish board. Here we have an under the gun raise. The button calls, and I am thinking of 3-betting here, of squeezing, but someone else had the same idea, and now I obviously have to fold. But I was considering to do that because the original raiser had a fold to 3-bet percentage of 67%. I mean, not many hands, not a big sample size, but I still think that we could have gotten that one through, especially because the button had such a capped range. But that wasn't to be. Here we can obviously open King Jack off, but no action this time. Jack 9 off, definitely not a hand that I would open in early position. So I think I've said that before, but in general, especially on these Zoom games, I try to open pretty much a GTO recommended range, except I will have a look if I'm in late position what the blinds tendencies are, because it could be sometimes that I will raise more than what's recommended. Here, this is a tricky one. Pocket 8 is actually too good. I will call here because the big blind only has a very small 3-bet percentage, so I thought that he wouldn't squeeze. Here, he bets 3 into 5. I mean, he might think I'm just a fish here because I cold called the small blind, which a lot of regs just don't do, and I think maybe I should have just 3-bet here as well. If he bets again, unfortunately I will have to fold here. I do sometimes like to call in the small blind, and now I just have to think what you might have. I think I can't really get anything worse to call, so I will just check. And he checks behind, and we win against ace deuce. Okay, so he had a gut shot. Here I am going to raise. This is a cuspy hand, but this guy only has a 3% 3-betting percentage. On this board, I mean, we do have ace king. We can bet, but I mean, our range has ace king. Not that we have it, but I think it's best to just check there with bottom pair. And here is not great. I mean, if we bet now, there is absolutely nothing that can call us. The only benefit would have been to not get bluffed here on the river, but I think this player is not the type that would bluff. So he just checks, and we can check behind and hopefully win against a bad hand. But no, that's not the case. He had top pair there. But yeah, just getting back to why I raised the button there, because I saw that he has a very low 3-bet percentage in the big blind, and therefore I would have opened even wider than 10-8 off. I would have gone maybe 10-7 off or something like that. Here, not great against two players, but probably both fish. Normally I would say this is a board that I shouldn't c-bet a lot. This is a board that players over c-bet most of the time, but because we have top pair, top kicker here, I am happy to proceed. Here, it's getting a bit tricky. I still think we most likely have the best hand, but against two players, I won't go for 3 streets of value, so I'm just going to bet the river if they check to me. Now, unfortunately, he bets pot, and this is quite scary. Let's see, do I have any information about him? Not really. So I do think that this is scary, but I have top pair, top kicker. I have to be good 33% of the time, and I think I might just have that. So I will call, and yeah, well, queen eight. Look at that. So maybe yeah, had I known, I would have bet the turn. But against two players, that's a problem. They can just suck out on you. And with him betting so big there, I was close, but I still think 33% being good. I expected to lose there, but I think I'm still good probably 45% of the time. So I think that was a profitable call. Let me know if you disagree. But yeah, I got a little unlucky there with the river, but I've said that before. Like if you play multi-way pots, it's as if you're up against a PLO hand with your Hold'em hand, because they can just outdraw you. They hold four cards, you only have two, and it was not something unexpected that I lost there. But now let's concentrate on this hand. We have a pretty good one, and I think I'm going to bet 2/3 here because I can fold out quite a few of hands that have equity against me. And if I get raised or called, that is also fine because we can build a pot there, and even the ace might be good if we hit that on a later street. So I didn't mind betting there, and betting big was because there was a queen and a jack, and so from those positions I would go 2/3 in that situation, which is what I did. That said, the small blind flatting range often comprises two broadways, so it wouldn't have been a shock if I had gotten raised there, and I think I would probably have been behind. But as I said, because we were drawing to a really good hand, the nuts, I was happy to proceed. Here against under the gun that only got 40 big blinds, I can't continue with pocket fours. In a different scenario, I might have 3-bet there. I probably wouldn't cold call unless there would be some exceptional circumstance. Here, I would normally have just called, but because he makes it just a min bet from the cutoff, I think with my pocket tens, I want to raise here to 3-bet. King 9 suited, we're definitely going to open. Yeah, once again, the nitty player pool as we know it, with some aggression mixed in here. And this is a good example now. If everyone folds to me, I will open 7 deuce suited here, which is not the case, sadly. But this player here has a fold to steal of 82%. He doesn't 3-bet enough. He doesn't defend his big blind enough. So I would have raised almost any two there. Maybe not something horrible. Well, we could argue 7 deuce suited is horrible, but at least it was suited, and I would expect to make most of my profit just by stealing the blinds. So you don't need to have even like a mediocre hand there, because you can just give up once you get called and the flop is not to your liking. Here, this is another one where I could have considered betting, but just because the small blind had a 3-bet percentage of 11%, I decided against opening 10-7 off there. King 10 off will be a defend even against the 3 big blind raise here from the button, and we flop pretty well. Yeah, he bets half pot now, and the question is, but I think we have to raise here. We can go even a little smaller because he is short stacked, but I'm happy to get it in about ace king or king jack or something like that. And here at this point, I'm just going to pretend that I'm just bluffing and I'm gonna get it in. And he's tanking, and we get called by King Jack. That's what I said. That's pretty good. So we have a winner. So obviously, if it had been deeper, I would have had to put a bit more thought into the way I played this hand. But because SPR was so low there, me with 2 pair, I mean, there was no way I would ever fold. And so I didn't, I just wanted to play the hand fast. Here, unfortunately, he didn't go for my trap with middle set. And now we don't have the nuts anymore. I mean, we never had the nuts, but I still think that we have to go for value even here now. I will go even a little bit bigger, 24 big blinds, and just pretending. I mean, if he has a hand like ace-jack or ace-8 or something like that, I think I will get called here. So that's why I want to overbet this. And we do. I was going to say, if we got raised here, that would have been a really tough spot. And look, he had ace-10. I mean, why did he call the turn bet with ace-10 there? That really wasn't what I expected him to have. But then he rivered the ace, and then because there were 2 flush draws that break, that was the main reason why I went as big as I did. And he did not believe me. Jack 9 off here. This is quite tempting. I am going to call. I don't have much information about him, but the reason I called is because he just clicked it there. Now, I would have considered raising, but the problem is he made it 3/4 here, so I will just call against this one. I don't really like this one, but now he pots it. This is just really annoying. The problem now is, yes, we have the straight is not even that great, but it's tricky. We're out of position. We're not drawing to the nuts. I will fold this one here now. Like if the flush hadn't completed, I would have called again, because then if we hit our straight, our open ender, we could have donked the river and maybe got some value, but I didn't want to call a pot-sized bet out of position, not drawing to the nuts. I think that is a recipe for disaster. So sadly, we lost that one. Here, against the min raise, I would still have folded now anyway after a tight player. 3 bets in the small blind. Here, ace-deuce is below what I should open, but I would have considered it given the passivity of the big blind. This is another one of those where I have king-queen off, where I would have just flatted this guy's raise, but I will not continue now against the 3-bet. So yeah, don't be shy of cold calling in the small blind. I know a lot of charts say don't do that, and I wouldn't do it if I had a squeeze happy big blind, but sometimes if you have a decent hand that you just can't really 3-bet but you don't want to fold, then it's wise to just flat call there, provided you don't have a very aggressive big blind, because if you do, then that can obviously become an issue. Here we get 3-bet by someone who has not 3-bet at all in 24 hands. And this is the reason why I'm going to be a real nit now, and I'm going to fold. Because, yes, he might be doing this with a weaker hand, but 0 out of 24, I mean, he might just have had a bad run of cards, but calling there is hardly plus EV. So is this one here, so I'm going to fold. So yeah, against a normal small blind, I would say king-queen suited is just a tiny bit plus EV there, even though we have position. But against someone who under 3-bets, and I just assume that he under 3-bets if he has never done it in 24 attempts, then I just think that king queen suited, even in position, might shift to being pretty bad, because we might be flipping against tens or jacks, but we might be up against queens plus or ace queen, ace king. And against that range, king queen suited just doesn't perform overly well. And the other thing is, if we were to hit a flush or two pair or something like that, we might not be able to stack the guy, because he might just not felt aces if we flop three spades there. So that's why, call me a nit. I know I am a nit, but I think if in doubt, just fold, because it's not worth going to war in a hand that is in theory just about plus EV, but against a overly tight player is actually probably minus EV. But back to this now. Yeah, speaking of being a nit, 1913 so far my stats, obviously only over 69 hands, but still that does look a bit nitty. Well, we're just improving those stats slightly by raising the button. 1914 now. In case you're wondering, that's the VPIP is 19. That's how many hands I have played, and the preflop raise PFR is how many hands I actually raised. No action with ace king suited. Now we have 10-8 suited in the big blind. This is a hand that I will call here. I could consider raising, and this is a hand that I will check raise now, probably. He bets half pot. Against that, I am happy to just 3-bet. Also, we don't have an overcard, which is a bit sad. I would prefer to have queen 10 here over 10-8, but no one complains if you hit the straight here, and I will continue to bet. Obviously, we don't have the nuts here. King 10 is the nuts, but that doesn't bother me, and the straight doesn't the flush doesn't bother me either. I'm just trying to think how much I can squeeze. I don't want to go too big, but I think 3/4 is fine. If he has a set or two pair or something like that, I can even go a little bit bigger. Let's go 31 here into 37.6. But unfortunately, we get a snap fold, so yeah, it was a bit sad that the flush came in. Not that it was likely that I would have a flush there. And I didn't worry that he might have a flush, but the problem is that he might still worry that I have one, because now he loses to straights and flushes and potentially to sets as well. So that's why he folded, but I still thought that if he has a set that he's slow played there, then he might not be able to get away. But the fact that he snap folded indicated that he didn't have a difficult decision. He might just have had a draw or a middle pair or something himself. Ace jack off. We will definitely play this one. I would have 3-bet it if hijack had opened. We get a cold call and another call. Yeah, so this is now a situation where I wouldn't want to c-bet against two players, being out of position against one of them. Now, this is, I mean, what can we make of this? I could raise here, but I'm just going to take my equity here, because we still have a player behind us. Had it been heads up, I might have raised. And this is a tricky one now. He still bets small, but I mean, I only have ace high and I have a player behind me. I cannot call. I will fold and watch the outcome of this hand. Because we're definitely losing to a 4, we're losing to spades, we lose to an 8, to pocket sevens to do any pair on the board. And when he makes it that small, I could have considered doing what he did, but that's why I said if I had been heads up with the big blind, I would have considered raising. But here I couldn't do it because I had him behind, and he might well have a flush or a straight or something, and then I would just lose a lot of money, which is why I decided to just fold there. Here, ace deuce off. I don't want to play this at equilibrium. I should play ace four or maybe ace three. Ace deuce is just about negative territory, so I did not open that one. Still doing all right here so far. Don't think I've made a major blunder yet, but I will have to analyze my hands as I usually do after a session. By the way, I'm going to analyze my biggest pots of the month of February on my other channel called Live Poker Guide. And I know it says Live Poker Guide, but I also analyze online hands. So if you want to see my analysis of my biggest pots, then it's worth subscribing to that channel. I'll leave the link in the description. 8-7 suited is just about too weak to raise. To 3-bet, I mean, I would obviously have raised in the small blind if it had folded to me. Pocket jacks, the first kind of premium hand here against an aggressive player who just folds. Okay, well, the one time we have jacks, no action. The one time we had ace king, no action. Although with the ace king once I had action, and I lost to 2-pair when he had queen 8 and he rivered the queen. Yeah, we haven't had a lot of difficult situations yet, which I personally don't mind, but it might have been a bit better, or it could be a bit better if we have a few more of those for you guys. But as long as I get dealt 6 deuce and the likes, we can probably stay out of trouble. Here, tricky one. The reason I'm calling here is simply because we're up against this recreational player here who just called in the hijack, which I know no one ever does. And now this guy c-bets really big on this board, so nothing to do than to fold. But yeah, this is not a board or not a situation, not a spot where he should ever c-bet big. But fair enough. Yeah, so king 4 suited is normally not a hand I would want to play multi-way, but simply because I expected the cold caller to just be a bad player, I decided to to call there. Didn't work out though. Yeah, so not much we can do at the moment with these sort of hands. Not gonna call here either. Yeah, not anything remotely playable at the moment. This one is though. Just about bottom of the raising range in the hijack. And we just take it down. Nitty pool again. Sometimes you just get 3-bet all the time here, and sometimes it's just a very nitty player pool. Here, again, I mean, it's tricky against this player. I considered calling just in order to play against the fish, but the problem is that the big blind was quite aggressive and I didn't have a good enough hand to just raise there out of position. Had I been on the button, I would have raised quite big there to drive out the blinds and get called by the fish who was out of position. But completing in the small blind, if you have an aggressive big blind, is not amazing. And you might say, yeah, you only lose half a big blind, but first of all, you lose a bit more than half a big blind, 0.6. I know that's nitpicky, but at these stakes, you're only in for 0.4 big blinds rather than half a big blind. And the second reason why I don't want to just complete there nilly-willy is because if you lose even that 0.6 big blind, it's still a loss and these accumulate. Here against this player who hardly ever folds to 3 bets, I will just call. Here, if you see bets now, this is a quite tight player. So, and his c-bet's really big, which I really don't like. But on the other hand, I can't fold just yet. I have bottom pair, and if I suck out on him, well, this is not going to do the job, is it? So if he bets again now, I will have to fold. But despite his big bet on the flop, he could have done it with something like ace, jack, or something like that. But now, against 3/4 here from a tight player who has a turn c-bet percentage of 33%, well, now it's 50% with this hand because it's only 2 out of 4. But still, I have to fold. There is not much I can do there. And you could argue that I should have folded on the flop already. But I thought that I just couldn't quite do it. Ace-2 suited is an open here, and we get this aggressive player. I kind of worried about that, but the problem is Ace-2 suited is not really good enough to 4-bet. Could consider it because this player does it quite light, but I'd have preferred a slightly better hand there to go for the 4-bet. Ace-4 off is a fold here against cutoff. I would have continued against the button. Ace-King suited is a hand that we can open, and look at this, they couldn't fold quickly enough. As if they knew that I had a hand there. Okay, this guy is a very tight player. I'm not going to continue with 10-8 suited in the small blind. King-Jack suited, we can definitely play. Okay, here I do want to raise this one. I could have flat called because the players behind seemed rather passive, although I don't really have information about them. I've only played 2 hands and 1 hand with these guys, so therefore I didn't know much. I just prefer to play heads up as the aggressor here. Well, that said, this guy, look at this. He has never 4-bet in 27 hands, and he decides to do this now. So definitely not a hand I would want to continue with, even though I'm getting a good price and we have position. But King-Jack suited is not a hand. Like, you can continue it against an aggressive player here, but not against someone who has never 4-bet in 27 attempts where he got 3-bet. So that wasn't just 27 hands played. It was 27 times that he 3-bet. No, sorry, that he raised, that someone else 3-bet, and then he had the chance to 4-bet. He never did it, and now he was under the gun and he 4-bet our raise from the cutoff. So absolutely not worth continuing with King-Jack suited. And if you ask me what hands I would continue with there, well, I would say queens plus ace king, definitely. And I would have to call jacks and tens, but kind of almost to set mine, and or maybe hope that he has ace king there, but you can see that pocket jacks are actually very close to a fold against a range that just doesn't contain enough bluffs. Because the reason why solver often calls with hands like king jack suited or pocket tens in a spot like that is because under the gun is supposed to have quite a few bluff four bets there. But if you take those out of the equation and you think that he only really does that with, well, what, kings plus an ace king, maybe not even ace king, and probably not queens, or at least no pure four bet. Here, this one's tight against, quite close against these two players, but I'm just going to bet because I have the 10 of hearts. He calls very, very, very quickly, which leaves me to believe that he either has some sort of a pair or hearts. And here, now, I can definitely go for value. I have to see. I don't want to go too big. Something like half pot here, because he could still call with a queen. Well, he called with a6. Oh, wow. He had a6 and he called me. And I mean, yes, that's the definition of a fish here. On the board of queen 5-5, yeah, okay, he had the ace of hearts, but still, he called with a player behind, and then he lucked out. He got the 6 there on the turn, and then we both hit the ace on the river. Could have lost more in that hand, actually. If I had bet a bit bigger, I considered betting a bit bigger. Okay, this one here, I will definitely not c-bet with second pair against two players. And this is not a great board for me at all. But it's good news that they just check, which means that I might have a chance here. Definitely not good enough for value betting now, because I don't think I get called by anything weaker. But definitely winning here. So this guy, look at what the hands that these guys call with here. So I would like to say, okay, well, this is an interesting one here. I would have called. The problem is this is a min 3-bet here, and if he then decides to 4-bet, which there is a chance, I would lose too much, and therefore I prefer to just get out of the way here. Okay, you see, this is exactly what happened there. Just, I'd like to see what's developing here. Hold in SB with a 7 off. I'm just taking notes on the player in the previous hand, the one we lost against. And here, I mean, this one is also clearly not a crusher in this field. And look at this, we would have had the straight here, but we would never have gotten there. Oh, wow, okay, ace 8. So min raised ace 8. Min 3-bet, ace 8 suited. Okay, here we have to get out of the way. Yeah, I think I can mark him as even less of a crusher than initially thought. Jack 7 off. I will raise this one because he has a 3-bet percentage of 6% and him 3%. This one here, we have bottom pair. Happy to just check behind. This is not great, but and especially because he's a tight player, but he made it small. I just have to call here once, and then we'll see on the river. He just checks. I think he probably has an ace, but oh no, well, he had hearts and he hit the... We're actually lucky that he hit the 5 on the river, because not that he had much showdown value there, if you think about it, but he might have just thought that he did. and that's why we were able to just see a showdown, because I think most likely I would have just folded otherwise. Here, against the min click on the button, definitely calling. Here he makes it quite small, but I mean, I only have backdoors here, not even an overcard, so I just have to fold. Yeah, so playing for another maybe 7 to 10 minutes or so. And then we'll wrap it up. But I'm still hoping that we can get into a few interesting spots here. And my 3-betting percentage today has been absolutely terrible. 3%. I just looked it up. And that's absolutely not normal for me. I average around 10%, but I just haven't had the hands to do this with. And this is actually a hand where I will do it, because this player here folds to 3 bets 91% of the time, 10 out of 11, and he obliges once again. This is a hand that in GTO I think you're meant to call rather than 3 bet, but I was very happy to 3 bet there against this particular player. And here I'm going to c-bet this one with the ace and the 10, because we do have a chance. Now we pick up something. Question is whether we can actually get him to fold anything here. Do we have any showdown value with a 5? We might do against King Queen or something like that, but if he has a 10 or pocket 7s or something like that, I'm just happy to fold him out. And the 5 there got us some more outs. Okay, so this one's interesting now. We get 3 bet by the button. Ooh, okay, well, I was gonna call here, but a super tight player jams for 242 big blinds. Obviously, we're only 150 effective, but whatever. King Queen suited is definitely a fold against that. And the button raiser also folds. Yeah, I would like to have the opportunity to 3-bet a bit more, but I just didn't. I had neither the hands nor the spots to really do much 3-betting. Here, this is another player who's probably not the best. He will, if I give him the chance, he might stab here, which he didn't do, and now this is not necessarily super good. Let's go for 2/3 here. With ace jack, I might have gone a bit bigger, but there is a chance that he has a jack as well. But I wanted to get value here from some pocket pair, because normally I wouldn't necessarily bet much if we have a draw that's pretty good, but we also had the top pair to go with, even though we didn't have a good kicker. But I think that we could have gotten some value, and mainly also I wanted a little bit of protection there, because if he has a hand like ace queen or so, I'm happy if he folds it, I'm happy if he calls, because if he folds, then it's still a result to just clean up the equity, even though on the turn that is nowhere near as important as on the flop. On the flop, you're super happy about clearing out equity with 2 more cards to come. On the turn, it's only really important against 2 opponents or more, because then, even though there is still only 1 card to come, you have 2 or 3 opponents, and there is just much more of a chance for them to outdraw you than in a pot against only 1 player, aka heads up pot. King 9 off, definitely not good enough to raise under the gun. 10-6 suited against under the gun, also not something I would want to continue. Here we have a hand that might be good to go a bit deeper. Okay, so this is exactly it. We get raised here, and this is the one hand where I'm actually quite happy to go for the 4-bet. Yeah, we can see his 3-bet range has 8-7 suited, 9-8 suited, King-Jack suited, and queens. Okay, this is... The problem is we don't really... With Ace-Queen we would have called, so we do have... Is there something that we can actually achieve here by betting? I think we could... Yeah, let's still just bet small here. Because we could fold out a hand like Ace 10 suited or something like that. We still have a gut shot to go with here, so... And this is a draw where I'm not super unhappy if we get jammed on, because I can just fold, which would be different if I had a better draw. But here to a gut shot, or maybe hopefully the ace. Okay, didn't happen. And the problem is now, I actually made it too big on the turn. I realized I should just have made it smaller. I just don't think that I can get him off a pair here, basically. Even jacks or tens or something like that. Plus he might have nines or slow played queens or something. So I just have to check and give up here. Yeah, pocket tens. That makes sense. And with a queen there, that was exactly the problem. I did not really have the leverage to get him off that. If we had been significantly deeper, I could have jammed the river, but I just went way too big on the turn. I didn't pay attention to it. Instead of making it 26, I should just have made it something like 18 or 19, and then I would have had a little bit more room for maneuver, although probably still not quite enough. Here, definitely going for the 3-bet. This is a chance I was waiting for. Yeah, I played that poorly in that respect. Also because I knew, and he might have known as well, that a queen doesn't really hit the 4-better's range very well. So yes, I could obviously still have aces, kings, and queens, but I wouldn't do this with king, queen, or ace, queen very much, which means that I didn't connect very well with it, and I think he's supposed to just call down with his tens there anyway. But maybe, who knows, if I had made it, have had gone all in on the river, maybe I would have been able to get a fold. We will never know, sadly, and I lost quite a big portion of my stack with that one hand, but that's how poker goes. We built it up to plus 70 big blinds, and now we are down quite a bit, actually. Something like 40 big blinds or so. But we'll have a look at the poker tracker data in a second. I am actually just going to leave this one and let's see what we have here. Yeah, so no, actually we lost 10. No, sorry, we lost, yeah, this would have been what we deserved to lose over 40. We lost about 23 big blinds or so, and yeah, we were doing quite well here all the time, and then it was just yeah, towards the end we had that one big hand. We were still pretty good here, and this is where it happened with a 4-bet pot, but that's just how it is. We could have hit an ace or a 4 there, and then we would have won a large pot, but we didn't. So yeah, if you want to watch more of this, please do so. Otherwise, have a look at the video that I'm suggesting here about bluff catching. That's on my other channel, and I think it's a very important skill to have whether you play live or online.